Hello there and welcome to the Science for Sleep, a place where the rhythm of nature meets the rhythm of your breath. Tonight we drift slowly into the quiet intelligence of the living earth, a vast system of connection that holds every creature, every forest, and every wave in an intricate dance of exchange and renewal. Ecology is the gentle story of how life supports life, how forests breathe the air we share, how rivers carry food and memory from mountain to sea, and how even the smallest living cell contributes to the grand pulse of the planet. It is a web older than language, older than humanity, and still miraculously unfolding around us with every sunrise. Beneath your feet and above your head, the world hums with cooperation and balance, forming invisible threads that link soil, sky, and sea. As we wander through this nocturnal journey, we will explore the hidden networks beneath the forest floor, swim among unseen migrations in the ocean, and listen for the quiet conversations that pass between roots, clouds, and creatures. You will hear how balance emerges from apparent chaos and how the heartbeat of the planet can be felt in every drop of rain, every breath of wind, and every sigh of a sleeping forest. As you listen, let your mind soften, your breathing slow, and your thoughts drift like leaves upon a stream, because this is not only a story about life, it is a lullaby sung by the earth itself. Our planet breathes. Its atmosphere literally rises and falls in tune with the pulse of life. Each spring, when sunlight returns to the northern hemisphere, forests awaken, oceans bloom with phytoplankton, and the air subtly changes its composition. Billions of leaves and microscopic cells draw carbon dioxide from the sky, using sunlight to build sugar and release oxygen. Across continents and seas, the world exhales vitality, transforming invisible gases into food, growth, and renewal. When autumn returns, the green fades, leaves fall, and decay gives that carbon back to the air. The entire atmosphere swells and contracts like lungs, a slow planetary respiration visible even from satellites. Scientists call it the breathing of the biosphere, an annual heartbeat of photosynthesis and decomposition that ties all living things together. It is not only forests that shape this rhythm. Tiny algae drifting in the ocean contribute their quiet part, each one capturing sunlight, each one helping bind the ocean and the sky in a shared breath that has continued for billions of years. Forests are not passive landscapes but living systems that create their own weather. As dawn touches the canopy, leaves release vapor into the air through microscopic pores, streams of moisture that rise, cool, and condense into clouds. The forest feeds its own sky, calling rain back upon itself in an endless loop of generosity. In immense regions like the Amazon, this process is so vast that the rain falling in one valley may have been exhaled from leaves hundreds of kilometers away. If that cycle is broken, if trees are cut and the soil laid bare, the skies above begin to dry, clouds thin, and balance falters. Forests do not merely respond to climate, they shape it. Every single tree cools the air, casts shade, and helps seed the next storm. Every droplet of rain that falls upon a leaf remembers countless others that once rose from forests before it, repeating a rhythm as old as the world itself. Beneath this surface beauty lies another secret, the forest's underground web of communication. Below the soil, an unseen network of fungi connects roots to roots, forming what scientists call the Wood Wide Web. Through these microscopic threads, trees exchange nutrients, water, and information. A shaded sapling may receive sugars from its neighbors. A tree under insect attack can send chemical warnings through the soil, prompting nearby companions to strengthen their defenses. Older trees, sometimes centuries old, act as central hubs, distributing carbon and minerals to younger ones through networks finer than silk. The soil is alive with quiet cooperation, a living circuitry humming beneath every forest. Even when a tree dies, its final act of generosity often involves sending stored energy into the network, gifting life to others before it falls. This silent intelligence, this collective awareness, spreads through darkness, holding ecosystems together in balance, and beneath the waves, coral reefs echo the same pattern of connection and endurance. Each coral polyp is a tiny living creature that builds a hard skeleton of calcium carbonate around itself, and together millions create immense limestone fortresses teeming with life. These reefs rise like underwater cities, hosting fish, mollusks, crustaceans, and countless microscopic species. In their brilliance and complexity, coral reefs rival rainforests, recycling nutrients with astonishing precision. They buffer shorelines from storms and cradle the early lives of many marine species. Yet their beauty hides fragility. A small rise in ocean temperature or acidity can drive out the symbiotic algae that feed corals, turning vibrant structures ghostly white. Still, given time and balance, reefs can recover, regrowing stone by stone, a patient monument to endurance. Beneath the stillness of the sea, life builds cathedrals of color from creatures no larger than a grain of rice. The Amazon rainforest, often called the lungs of the earth, demonstrates the power of this living connection more than any other place. Each morning, when sunlight warms the endless green canopy, billions of leaves release water vapor that drifts skyward to form towering clouds. These clouds darken and return their gift as rain, repeating a self-sustaining cycle that keeps one of the planet's richest ecosystems alive. The Amazon's trees collectively generate more moisture than the mighty river itself carries to the sea. Without this process, the land would dry into savanna within decades. Even the forest scent, made of natural organic compounds released by plants, helps seed clouds, turning aroma into weather. The Amazon is not just a collection of trees, it is an atmospheric engine, a living system that cools the air, moves winds across continents, and sustains rainfall patterns as far away as Africa. In the hidden architecture of the tropics, termite colonies carry out another ancient form of planetary engineering. Beneath mounds sculpted from soil and saliva, termites cultivate microscopic gardens where bacteria break down wood and plant matter, releasing methane as a byproduct. Though they are small, the combined activity of termites across the tropics releases and recycles gases in amounts comparable to entire ecosystems of larger animals. Their complex tunnel systems control temperature and airflow with engineering precision, adjusting pressure and humidity in ways that scientists still study for inspiration. The soil they process becomes richer, the landscape more fertile, and the balance of atmospheric gases subtly altered. Despite their tiny size, termites outweigh the combined biomass of many mammal species. They are quiet architects of balance, shaping the invisible chemistry of the air. Far from these green realms, deserts appear silent, but within their stillness lies another lesson in patience and resilience. Beneath dry sand and cracked earth, seeds wait, sometimes for centuries, for the arrival of rain. These dormant life capsules are miracles of endurance, protected by shells that resist heat, cold, and decay. When the long-awaited rains finally fall, the desert transforms overnight. Water softens the seed coats, triggering a chemical spark that awakens life from its slumber. Shoots emerge, fields bloom in color, and entire ecosystems complete their life cycles in days before retreating once more into silence. Some of these seeds have been found viable after hundreds of years, surviving through eras of drought. The desert may appear lifeless, but hidden beneath it is a library of future forests, meadows, and flowers waiting for a single unpredictable storm. In the frozen north, Arctic permafrost tells another ancient story. Beneath its icy surface lies a time capsule of organic matter, plants, roots, and microbial life from ages past. Trapped in frozen soil for tens of thousands of years, these remnants hold vast reserves of carbon, sealed since the last ice age. As global temperatures rise, the permafrost begins to thaw, awakening long-dormant microbes that feed on the ancient material and release carbon dioxide and methane. The process, once slow, now threatens to accelerate, potentially transforming the Arctic from a storehouse of carbon into a source of greenhouse gases. Yet even as it melts, the permafrost reveals astonishing relics, preserved seeds, ancient vegetation, and even the bones of mammoths, echoes of worlds long gone. It reminds us that climate is not static, that every living system is part of a cycle of freezing and thawing, dormancy and rebirth. Everywhere we look, nature speaks in patterns of rhythm and response. Rivers sculpt the land while carrying the memory of mountains toward the sea. Ocean currents move nutrients and warmth like veins beneath the skin of the planet. Clouds travel the skies, forming bridges of moisture that link distant continents. Life is not separate from these forces, it is their expression. Even the oxygen we breathe has passed through the bodies of countless organisms: trees, algae, plankton, each exhalation part of a continuous global conversation. The more closely we listen, the more we realize that the intelligence of Earth is distributed everywhere, in fungi trading nutrients beneath roots, in coral colonies building stone cities, in seeds dreaming under sand, and in the frozen breath of glaciers waiting for spring. Our species, too, is part of this great conversation. The air in our lungs today once passed through the leaves of ancient forests, through the gills of fish, through the breath of whales. Every breath connects us backward through time to the first photosynthetic organisms that ever lived. Every sip of water we drink has cycled through clouds, rivers, and veins countless times. We are made of Earth's memory, of atoms and molecules endlessly reused, remixed, reborn. The more deeply we see this, the more gently we might live. Ecology is not only the science of life, it is an invitation to humility. It reminds us that to harm any part of this web is to tremble the whole, and to heal even a small corner of it is to help the world breathe easier again. So, as you lie here listening, let your breathing find the same rhythm as the world around you, the rise and fall of the forests, the gentle exhale of oceans, the slow, steady pulse of soil. Feel how life supports life, how everything you are is part of something vast, ancient, and beautifully alive. The planet's intelligence does not speak in words but in patterns of renewal, in the endless recycling of light, air, and energy. It is in the whisper of leaves, the hush of rain, the silence of coral deep below. Tonight, as the stars glimmer above and the earth turns softly beneath them, imagine those unseen networks still working, forests exhaling, roots communicating, seeds waiting, glaciers dreaming. The living world carries on, breathing you to sleep, holding you in its slow, patient rhythm, a reminder that even in darkness, life continues to weave its quiet miracles, one heartbeat at a time. It is both a warning and a window into Earth's deep history, holding within its frost the breath of past worlds and the memory of countless seasons long vanished. Beneath the snow and ice of our planet lie the frozen echoes of ancient forests, the trapped gases of extinct ecosystems, and the silent archive of time itself. A single teaspoon of soil, though, holds a universe far more alive than any frozen tundra, containing more living organisms than there are humans on Earth. Hidden in every pinch of soil is a thriving metropolis of microscopic life: bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, and endless unseen species coexisting in a balance so complex that 1 gram may contain billions of individual organisms. These tiny engineers decompose organic matter, recycle nutrients, and create the structure that roots depend upon to drink and grow. Without their constant work, plants would starve, water would stagnate, and decay would halt. Life as we know it would crumble without this hidden civilization beneath our feet. The microbes of the soil even produce antibiotics and subtle chemical signals that influence plant health and immunity. Most of these species are still unknown to science, their DNA forming an enormous living library of information and potential cures. Each garden, forest, and meadow hides a microscopic reef, a network as intricate as coral but built from cells too small for the naked eye. When soil is healthy, it breathes and filters, transforming waste into nourishment, and quietly sustaining everything visible above it through the endless labor of invisible hosts. Far below the reach of sunlight, entire ecosystems thrive in the pitch-dark world of the deep ocean. Around volcanic fissures where Earth's crust cracks open, water heated by the planet's inner fire surges out, rich with minerals and gases. Here, in these hydrothermal vent fields, life has evolved a completely different way to survive. Instead of sunlight, microbes harvest chemical energy, converting hydrogen sulfide and other compounds into food through a process called chemosynthesis. These microbes form the base of a unique food web that supports giant tube worms with blood-red plumes, pale crabs that walk like ghosts, enormous clams, and strange translucent fish that glow faintly in the black water. The temperatures near these vents can swing from near freezing to boiling within the span of a few meters, yet life endures and flourishes. This discovery changed everything we thought we knew about what life needs to exist. It proved that biology does not depend on sunlight, only on chemistry, adaptation, and perseverance. Some scientists even believe that similar deep-sea ecosystems might exist on the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, Europa and Enceladus, where hidden oceans may host life powered not by starlight, but by the quiet heat of a distant planet's heart. In the silent dark, far below the waves, Earth demonstrates how life can bloom wherever energy and persistence meet in the deep unknown. Yet not all strange forms of life hide beneath oceans or soil. Deep within the ruins of the Chernobyl reactor, where radiation lingers decades after disaster, scientists discovered black fungi thriving on walls still warm with radioactivity. These fungi contain pigments called melanin, much like those in human skin, that appear to convert ionizing radiation into usable chemical energy. This process, known as radiosynthesis, allows them to grow in conditions lethal to most organisms. In laboratory tests, certain species even grew faster when exposed to radiation, suggesting that they could harness this energy as fuel. Similar fungi have been found clinging to the outer surfaces of the International Space Station, surviving in high radiation environments far beyond Earth's protective atmosphere. This discovery expanded the boundaries of life's definition, showing that it can adapt to extremes once considered impossible: radiation, vacuum, and isolation. It even opens the possibility that life on other planets could use radiation itself as an energy source, thriving where sunlight cannot reach but cosmic energy flows freely through stone and shadow. Meanwhile, back on Earth's surface, other engineers of nature quietly reshape the land for the benefit of countless species. Beavers, often underestimated, are among the planet's most skilled architects. When they build their dams, they slow rushing streams into calm ponds, creating wetlands rich in biodiversity. The still waters trap sediments and nutrients, fostering life for insects, amphibians, fish, and birds. These ponds act as water reservoirs during droughts, supporting vegetation long after surrounding areas have dried out. Over time, the beaver's work increases local biodiversity by crafting new ecological niches. Their dams also act as natural flood control systems, absorbing the force of storms and releasing water gently downstream. Even when beavers abandon a pond, the transformed landscape continues to evolve, meadows form, trees return, and eventually forests regrow. This cycle of pond to meadow to woodland becomes a rhythm of renewal, showing how one small species can reshape entire watersheds. Ecologists now use beaver reintroduction as a tool for habitat restoration, proving that cooperation with natural engineers often restores balance more effectively than machinery ever could. Beneath the open skies of the world's great prairies lies another masterpiece of natural design: the roots of grassland plants that grow deeper than most trees extend upward. Unlike forests that invest in trunks and leaves, prairies put their energy underground, sending roots meters deep into the soil. These dense networks anchor the earth, store nutrients, and retain water through droughts. Some species have root systems more than 5 meters deep, forming an underground forest invisible from above. This subterranean world holds vast amounts of carbon, making grasslands powerful natural carbon sinks. When plowed for agriculture or overgrazed, the carbon locked within is released back into the atmosphere, accelerating climate change. But when native grasses are restored, their deep roots reclaim that carbon, rebuilding balance slowly but steadily. The resilience of these roots also stabilizes the land, preventing erosion and helping prairies recover after wildfires. Underneath the windswept plains, a vast and ancient architecture endures, a quiet network that sustains some of the most extensive and enduring ecosystems on Earth. Along the edges of continents where land meets sea, mangrove forests thrive in conditions too harsh for most trees. These remarkable plants live in saltwater swamps, where their tangled roots hold firm in shifting mud. Their roots grow upward and outward, forming dense lattices that trap sediment and reduce the force of waves. Special root structures called nematophores rise from the mud like snorkels, allowing the trees to breathe even when flooded. Inside their tissues, intricate filtration systems remove salt from seawater, storing or excreting it through the leaves. These adaptations turn mangroves into oases of stability in chaotic coastal zones. They serve as nurseries for countless fish, crustaceans, and birds while shielding shorelines from erosion and storm surges. Mangroves are also powerful allies in the fight against climate change. They store immense amounts of carbon both in their trunks and in the dense organic soils that accumulate beneath them. In protecting mangroves, we protect not only biodiversity but also the delicate balance that holds coastlines together. In the open ocean, whales perform another extraordinary service for the planet's balance. These giants of the sea are more than majestic creatures. They are crucial engineers of the marine nutrient cycle. When whales dive deep to feed and then return to the surface, they release waste rich in nitrogen, iron, and other nutrients that fertilize phytoplankton, the microscopic plants that form the foundation of the ocean's food web. Phytoplankton absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen, sustaining both marine life and the breathable air on land. This process, called the whale pump, enhances productivity across vast regions of the ocean. Before commercial whaling decimated their populations, whales helped maintain much higher plankton densities, indirectly boosting fish stocks and carbon sequestration. Restoring whale populations could therefore play a surprising role in climate recovery. Each whale acts as a floating nutrient engine, fertilizing life wherever it swims, linking the deep with the surface, and turning the act of living into a form of planetary renewal. As night falls over the ocean, another hidden miracle unfolds. Billions of deep-sea organisms begin one of the greatest synchronized movements of life on Earth. As darkness spreads, tiny creatures like zooplankton, shrimp, and small fish rise from the depths to feed near the surface under the protective cover of night. When dawn approaches, they sink back into the safety of the deep, carrying carbon and organic matter downward. This daily motion, called the Deal vertical migration, is the largest migration on the planet by total biomass. It moves more life each night than the great herds of land animals ever could, transporting carbon from the surface into the deep sea where it can be stored for centuries. This invisible migration regulates the global climate, shapes food chains, and maintains the ocean's balance. The guiding force of this vast migration is light, or rather, its absence. As sunlight fades, creatures rise. As it returns, they fall. Even in the deepest layers, this pulse continues, a silent tide of life rising and sinking in rhythm with the day. From the frozen soils of the Arctic to the molten vents of the seafloor, from the fungal gardens of Chernobyl to the tangled roots of mangroves, Earth's biosphere reveals one message repeated in endless variation: life endures by adapting, by sharing, by connecting. Every organism, whether visible or microscopic, contributes to the stability of the whole. A fungus that feeds on radiation, a beaver that reshapes rivers, a whale fertilizing the sea, all are expressions of the same universal pattern of balance. Each system, seen or unseen, sustains another, forming an intricate and interdependent web that keeps the planet alive. Even the soil beneath your feet, silent and unassuming, is a living network humming with energy and intelligence. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes that the boundaries between one life and another are illusions. Energy flows through all, transformed but never lost, cycling endlessly through breath, root, and ocean. As you let this thought settle, imagine yourself drifting gently within that web, between water and air, between past and future, breathing with the rhythm of the earth. The world around you is not inert matter but a living conversation carried by wind, wave, and whisper. From the smallest microbe to the grandest whale, everything participates in the same slow symphony of renewal. Life, in all its forms, is a dialogue with energy, whether from sunlight, from chemistry, or from the soft pulse of the planet's molten heart. Even now, as you listen, that conversation continues unseen, soil organisms turning decay into growth, coral rebuilding after storms, seeds waiting for rain, and distant whales stirring the sea with life. The planet is awake beneath you, dreaming through its living systems, guiding you gently toward rest, reminding you that in the great fabric of existence, every breath you take is both ancient and new. Mountains shape the planet's weather, carving invisible patterns of wind, water, and life across continents. When moist air encounters their slopes, it rises, cools, and condenses into clouds, shedding rain or snow on the windward side while leaving the opposite face dry in the shadow of its own making. This phenomenon, known as the rain-shadow effect, creates deserts, forests, and grasslands, defining the climate of entire regions. mountains also influence global circulation by redirecting air currents and altering ocean flow, regulating heat distribution across the Earth. Snow that falls on their summits melts into rivers that sustain billions of people, feeding ecosystems from alpine meadows to coastal deltas. Over eons, mountains serve as both sculptors and stabilizers, locking carbon in weathered rock and nourishing marine life with minerals carried downstream. Their grandeur reaches beyond sight, shaping not only the land but also the breadth of the atmosphere itself. Above their slopes, trees act as subtle architects of the sky, exhaling water vapor that rises into the air, mingling with organic particles to form the seeds of clouds. In vast forests, these microscopic interactions alter cloud shape, brightness, and frequency, cooling the surface below and balancing local temperatures. Satellites reveal how tree-covered regions create more reflective clouds, amplifying the planet's natural thermostat. When deforestation occurs, this delicate system collapses, humidity drops, rainfall diminishes, and heat accumulates. Forests are therefore not just lungs of the earth but engines of weather, orchestrating a symphony between air and life. The very fabric of the sky is shaped by the breathing of trees. Lightning, another atmospheric force, carries its own secret role in this cycle of renewal. In the heart of a storm, bolts hotter than the surface of the sun split nitrogen molecules in the air, allowing them to recombine with oxygen and form nitrates. These compounds dissolve into raindrops, falling to earth as natural fertilizer. Each storm thus feeds the soil below, turning energy into nourishment and chaos into growth. Without this process, many landscapes would slowly fade, deprived of the nutrients they require to flourish. Lightning is nature's alchemy, transforming electricity into sustenance, connecting sky and soil in an endless exchange. Beneath polar ice, where the world seems still, another miracle unfolds. Microscopic algae cling to the underside of sea ice, forming thin green layers that capture what little sunlight filters through. These algae feed zooplankton, which sustain fish, birds, seals, and whales, an entire food web thriving in near darkness. As climate change melts the ice earlier each year, this balance shifts. Blooms occur out of sync with migration patterns, and the fragile rhythm of the polar ecosystem falters. Yet even here, life adapts, finding ways to persist beneath the cold and shifting light. Every flake of ice, every crystal of frost hides an ocean of living potential. Rivers, meanwhile, act as the planet's circulatory system, carrying not only water but the memory of every ecosystem they touch. Flowing from mountains to seas, they transport nutrients, sediments, and even traces of DNA, tiny genetic fingerprints that tell the story of life along their course. Scientists now use these drifting fragments, called environmental DNA, to map biodiversity without ever seeing the species themselves. A river is thus both an artery of life and an archive of existence, recording every passing leaf, fish, or microbe. When rivers flood, they spread fertility across floodplains, restoring the land's vitality for future generations. Water is never still, it is a traveler, a storyteller, and a bridge between worlds. On the vast Great Plains, once alive with millions of bison and pronghorn, movement itself was an ecosystem. The grazing and migration of these immense herds shaped plant communities, recycled nutrients, and maintained the health of the soil. Each hoofstep aerated the ground, each migration redistributed fertility, turning the grasslands into a living engine of renewal. When these animals vanished due to overhunting, the plains grew still and less resilient. Now, through rewilding efforts, the rhythm of the land beats again, proof that life cycles can recover when given space to move freely. Fire, too, is a pulse of renewal, not destruction. In many ecosystems, periodic burning clears undergrowth, releases nutrients, and awakens dormant seeds that only germinate in the presence of heat or smoke. After a blaze, the soil glows with minerals, and within weeks, green shoots emerge from ash. Trees like eucalyptus and lodgepole pine depend on these cycles for regeneration. Without fire, forests grow choked and unbalanced, their diversity fading. Controlled burns guided by ecological wisdom mirror nature's rhythm, ensuring balance rather than chaos. For some plants, flames are not a threat but a promise, a signal that the time to begin again has come. Seeds sealed for decades burst open, sprouting into a reborn forest, their roots stabilizing the soil, their leaves feeding new life. This is the paradox of creation through destruction, a truth written into the heart of every living system. Even the ocean echoes this rhythm. Deep below the surface, coral larvae drift in search of home. Guided not by sight but by sound, they follow the faint crackle of shrimp, the murmur of fish, the symphony of a living reef. In dying reefs where silence reigns, larvae cannot find a place to settle, and the cycle of growth falters. Scientists have found that by playing recordings of healthy reefs, young corals can be lured back, restoring life to silent seascapes. Beneath the waves, sound is as vital as sunlight, a guiding force that sustains ecosystems hidden from human eyes. From mountains to oceans, from lightning to fire, every element of Earth participates in a single vast conversation. The sky speaks to the soil, the trees whisper to the clouds, and rivers carry the stories of all who live along their banks. Life thrives not through isolation but through connection, through the exchange of energy and matter that never truly ends. The mountain's snow becomes the river's pulse, the tree's vapor becomes the cloud's breath, the lightning's strike becomes the soil's feast. Each system sustains another, forming an endless chain of giving and renewal. The earth is not merely alive, it is aware in its own vast, patient way, weaving together stone, water, fire, and air into a tapestry of continual becoming. From the spark of a storm to the silence beneath ice, from the crackle of coral reefs to the whisper of prairie roots, the planet reminds us that every force we see as destructive also creates, that every end conceals a beginning, and that life, in all its forms, is forever rewriting the story of the world beneath and above our gaze. Elephants help rebuild ecosystems that thrive on harmony by performing vital roles that sustain dozens of other species. During dry seasons, elephants dig wells with their tusks and trunks, reaching groundwater buried beneath riverbeds and sandy soils. These wells become essential drinking sources for antelope, birds, and predators that follow the herds. By breaking branches and knocking down trees, elephants open clearings in dense forests, allowing sunlight to reach the ground and encourage the growth of smaller plants, thus promoting biodiversity. Their dung, rich with seeds, spreads vegetation across vast distances, ensuring regeneration wherever they travel. Ecologists call elephants keystone species, because their daily habits shape entire landscapes. When elephant populations decline, water sources dry, plant diversity shrinks, and ecosystems lose balance. But when reintroduced, elephants bring back the rhythm of nature, reviving vegetation patterns and restoring life. Similarly, the reintroduction of wolves into Yellowstone National Park in the 1990s sparked one of the most fascinating ecological transformations ever recorded. Wolves hunted deer and elk, reducing overgrazing near rivers and valleys. This allowed plants and young trees to recover, stabilizing riverbanks and creating homes for birds, beavers, and fish. The wolves' presence even changed the behavior of prey species, which began avoiding open valleys, giving forests space to grow. Within 2 decades, erosion slowed, streams narrowed, and biodiversity flourished. The Yellowstone story revealed how one predator could reshape an entire landscape, proving that every role in nature, from hunter to prey, matters deeply in maintaining balance. Beneath the oceans, kelp forests thrive as underwater jungles, growing at astonishing rates of up to half a meter a day. These vast brown seaweeds form dense canopies along cold coastlines, offering shelter to fish, otters, and countless marine creatures. Kelp also captures carbon dioxide, releases oxygen, and protects coastlines from strong waves. Its productivity rivals that of tropical rainforests, but when sea urchins overgraze or water worms, kelp forests collapse, leading to the loss of marine life. Protecting sea otters and managing fisheries allows kelp to regrow and stabilize these fragile environments. Meanwhile, deserts too hold hidden ecosystems. The cracked crusts that cover arid soils are living skins made of cyanobacteria, lichens, and mosses. These fragile crusts bind soil particles, prevent erosion, and enrich the ground with nitrogen, allowing future plants to take root. If trampled or disturbed, they can take decades to heal. Protecting them ensures the survival of entire desert ecosystems that depend on these microscopic pioneers. Under forest floors, life teems unseen. A handful of soil contains thousands of undiscovered species, each contributing to decomposition, nutrient cycling, and plant health. Modern DNA studies reveal this hidden world as a genetic treasure trove filled with microbes that may hold cures, enzymes, and insights into evolution itself. The soil beneath our feet isn't mere dirt, it's a living, breathing web of life millions of years in the making. Intertwined within it are networks of underground fungi, known as mycorrhizae, which connect trees through microscopic filaments stretching for kilometers. These fungal threads act like nature's internet, allowing trees to share nutrients, send distress signals, and balance resources. Older trees feed seedlings, and when one tree suffers, its neighbors respond through this silent system. Forests thrive because of these invisible connections, proving that cooperation in nature extends below the surface. Above and below water, microscopic organisms also sustain the planet. Phytoplankton, tiny algae drifting in oceans and lakes, produce more than half the oxygen humans breathe. Through photosynthesis, they transform sunlight and carbon dioxide into the air that sustains all life. When they die, they sink to the ocean floor, storing carbon for centuries and regulating the planet's climate. Their colorful blooms, visible from space, remind us that even the smallest beings hold immense power. Coastal wetlands, including mangroves and salt marshes, also play heroic roles in climate stability. They trap carbon in their dense roots and muddy soils far more efficiently than tropical rainforests. Because decomposition slows in their oxygen-poor environments, wetlands store carbon for millennia while buffering shores from storms and floods. Yet when drained or destroyed, they release massive carbon stores. Restoring wetlands reconnects them to the tides, reviving their ability to lock away carbon and protect coastlines. Nature's engineers exist even in the skies. Bat colonies, often overlooked or feared, save farmers billions of dollars by devouring crop pests nightly. Each bat consumes thousands of insects in hours, reducing the need for pesticides and improving soil and water health. Their droppings fertilize the earth naturally, and their migration patterns form invisible networks of pest control across continents. When bat populations fall, crop damage and pesticide use rise, proving their economic and ecological importance. In the icy south, Antarctic ecosystems depend on something as fragile as a film of sea ice algae. Clinging to the underside of frozen ice, these microscopic plants bloom each spring, feeding krill, the foundation of the Southern Ocean's food web. From krill to fish, penguins, seals, and whales, the entire Antarctic depends on this algae's rhythm. When ice melts too early or forms too late, the whole food chain falters. These algae transform frozen waters into living habitats, demonstrating that even the smallest forms of life sustain the largest. Finally, in every forest on Earth, fallen leaves tell a story of renewal. When they drift to the ground, fungi, bacteria, and insects begin their quiet work, breaking them down and releasing vital nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. These nutrients seep into the soil, feeding roots and fueling the next generation of trees. In this endless cycle of decay and rebirth, nothing in nature is wasted. Every process, from the digging of elephants to the breath of phytoplankton, connects in one vast web of interdependence. Life thrives because of these hidden exchanges. Between air and soil, predator and prey, leaf and fungus, light and shadow. The planet's balance depends on harmony, not dominance, on cooperation rather than competition. Each ecosystem, whether under the sea, in the desert, or beneath a forest floor, contributes to the greater rhythm of Earth, a living symphony in which even the smallest voice matters. The fallen leaves that carpet the forest floor form an insulating blanket that conserves moisture, moderates temperature, and provides refuge for countless insects and microorganisms. As these leaves decompose, the once complex molecules of lignin and cellulose are gradually broken down into simpler nutrients that re-enter the biological cycle, ensuring the continuous renewal of life. Within a few years, nearly all nutrients in a forest are recycled, proving that nature wastes nothing. Beneath every tree, invisible workers, fungi, bacteria, and invertebrates, labor silently to transform decay into fertility, maintaining a balance that keeps entire ecosystems thriving. This ceaseless loop of death and renewal underpins all life on Earth, showing that even in decomposition, there is creation. Some of the oldest living structures on the planet, coral reefs, have witnessed more history than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Formed from generations of coral colonies building upon the calcium carbonate remains of their ancestors, many reefs began over 5,000 years ago and continue to grow layer by layer. Despite millennia of storms, sea level shifts, and climate changes, they persist as living monuments of resilience. The Great Barrier Reef, stretching over 2,000 kilometers, not only shelters a quarter of all marine species but also acts as a record of Earth's oceanic past. Each coral skeleton captures traces of ancient water temperatures and chemical compositions, allowing scientists to read Earth's environmental history like a timeline of stone and life. Protecting these reefs today means preserving ecosystems that have endured longer than civilizations themselves. In the dark depths of the ocean, hydrothermal vents act as nature's alchemists, recycling the elements vital for all living things. Seawater seeps through cracks in the ocean floor where magma heats it, forcing it back up as mineral-rich plumes filled with iron, sulfur, and other compounds essential for life. Around these vents thrive unique communities powered not by sunlight, but by chemical energy from the Earth's crust. These systems constantly replenish nutrients that circulate through the ocean, linking the deepest abysses to surface waters. Many scientists even believe that life itself may have originated near such vents billions of years ago, where heat, chemistry, and pressure created the first living reactions. This connection between geology and biology reveals how intimately life is woven into the planet's physical heart. On land, grasslands perform another kind of planetary service. Their bright, open expanses reflect sunlight back into space through a process known as albedo, helping to cool the planet's surface. Beneath these seas of grass lies a vast storage of carbon trapped within deep, dense root systems. These underground reserves lock carbon away for centuries, preventing it from heating the atmosphere. But when grasslands are plowed for farming or overgrazed, that carbon escapes, fueling global warming. Protecting prairies and savannas is therefore not just an ecological duty, but a climate necessity. They act as natural stabilizers, regulating energy balance and soil fertility while maintaining a delicate global equilibrium. In the oceans, microscopic plankton take on a similar role. These tiny drifters, through photosynthesis, absorb massive amounts of carbon dioxide, converting it into organic matter. When they die, their remains sink like falling snow, a process known as marine snow, carrying carbon to the ocean floor where it becomes trapped for thousands of years. This biological carbon pump regulates Earth's climate more effectively than any human-made system. Without plankton, carbon dioxide levels would skyrocket, and the air we breathe would drastically change. Their activity is influenced by temperature, currents, and nutrients, making them a sensitive but powerful force in maintaining the planet's chemical stability. Deep beneath the surface, earthworms quietly reshape the world from below. As they tunnel through soil, they consume decaying matter and excrete nutrient-rich castings that enrich and aerate the earth. Their movement mixes layers of soil, allowing oxygen, water, and roots to penetrate more easily. This improves fertility, enhances plant growth, and restores ecosystems damaged by erosion or neglect. Charles Darwin devoted years to studying earthworms and concluded that their persistent labor has shaped landscapes more profoundly than most geological forces. Each earthworm, through countless small actions, transforms lifeless ground into fertile earth, a patient engineer of renewal beneath our feet. In the tropics, vast rainforests create their own weather systems through a continuous cycle of evaporation and rainfall. Through transpiration, billions of leaves release water vapor into the air, which cools, condenses into clouds, and falls again as rain, repeating the cycle endlessly. This self-sustaining system keeps humidity and temperature stable not just locally but across continents. In regions like the Amazon, up to half of all rainfall originates from this internal recycling. When forests are cut down, this delicate cycle breaks, leading to droughts, higher temperatures, and climate imbalance. The rainforest breathes moisture into the sky and receives it back, a perfect harmony of biology and atmosphere. In certain regions, such as cloud forests, The air is so thick with humidity that mist forms even without rain. Here, the forest never truly dries. The continuous transpiration keeps humidity high, helping plants retain moisture and reducing evaporation. This process creates cool, stable microclimates where orchids, mosses, and amphibians thrive year-round. Even in dry seasons, dew and fog sustain these ecosystems, ensuring life endures where rainfall alone would fail. These rainforests demonstrate nature's resilience, self-sufficient systems that regulate their own climate while supporting unparalleled biodiversity. Beneath it all, decomposers form the final link in nature's eternal chain. When any organism dies, fungi, bacteria, and insects begin their intricate work of dismantling it. Through enzyme-driven reactions, they convert complex organic compounds into simpler molecules like carbon dioxide, minerals, and water. These elements re-enter the soil, air, and water systems, where plants absorb them to create new life. Nearly every atom of what once lived eventually becomes part of something living again. Decomposition ensures that life's building blocks never vanish. They merely change form, moving endlessly through cycles of decay and renewal. In this seamless transformation, nature demonstrates its greatest wisdom, that even endings are beginnings in disguise. All across the planet, the unseen work of decomposition fuels the endless renewal of life. When organisms die, their remains do not vanish but begin a transformation through the patient labor of microbes, fungi, and scavengers. These decomposers break down complex organic matter into simple nutrients that re-enter the soil and atmosphere, ready for reuse by plants and microorganisms. Through this ceaseless recycling, vital elements such as carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus circulate through ecosystems, sustaining every form of life. Without these silent recyclers, nutrients would accumulate in dead material, halting growth and crippling the balance of nature. Decomposers also enrich the soil, forming humus, a dark, spongy substance that retains moisture and nutrients, enhancing fertility and resilience. Their invisible activity links death to life in an unbroken chain, maintaining equilibrium across forests, oceans, and fields. Among the most important carbon stores on Earth are frozen peatlands, vast wetlands where cold, waterlogged conditions slow decay and preserve ancient plant matter. Over millennia, these peat layers have accumulated to depths of several meters, trapping more carbon than all the world's forests combined. As long as they remain frozen or water-saturated, this carbon stays safely locked away, but when thawed or drained, the organic matter rapidly decomposes, releasing greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Scientists estimate that peatlands store twice as much carbon as all living vegetation, making their preservation crucial to moderating climate change. Restoration projects now focus on rewetting drained peatlands, halting oxidation, and reviving the mosses that rebuild the natural water balance. Beneath their quiet, moss-covered surfaces, peatlands hold not only the breath of ancient climates but also the key to our planet's future stability. Within this grand web of cycles and exchanges, other creatures continue shaping the world in subtle but powerful ways. Bees, for instance, are architects of evolution itself. As they flit between blossoms collecting nectar and pollen, they decide which plants will reproduce, guiding natural selection. Over generations, this intimate partnership molds the color, scent, and shape of flowers, even influencing when they bloom. Some blossoms have evolved ultraviolet patterns invisible to humans but strikingly clear to bees, leading them directly to nectar. This coevolution between bees and plants is one of nature's most delicate alliances, vital not only for wild ecosystems, but for human agriculture. A vast portion of global crops depends on bees for pollination, from fruits to nuts to vegetables. A decline in bee populations disrupts this ancient harmony, collapsing entire pollination networks and reshaping landscapes. The patterns of flowers across meadows and mountains are, in many ways, the fingerprints of bees, their collective choices written into the fabric of evolution. Above the ground, life flourishes in a parallel world of air and light, the forest canopy. High in the treetops, far from the forest floor, sunlight filters through layered leaves to create a complex aerial ecosystem that hosts countless species, many of which never descend to Earth. Birds, frogs, orchids, insects, and even mammals live their entire lives within this lofty realm. The canopy is a living architecture of branches and light, a green continent suspended above the soil. Its structure, varying by height and density, forms microhabitats comparable to entire biomes. Researchers exploring this vertical wilderness often discover organisms unknown to science, uniquely adapted to this sun-drenched but water-scarce environment. The canopy also serves as the forest's climate regulator, absorbing sunlight by day and moderating temperature by night. It is both roof and engine, converting solar energy into the biological productivity that sustains the entire ecosystem below. In the oceans, coral reefs mirror this complexity through structures as intricate as any forest canopy. Every coral species builds a unique skeleton. Some branch like trees, others form domes or plate-like structures. These shapes influence how water moves, how nutrients flow, and how marine life interacts. Corals are living architects, constructing vast underwater cities that feed, shelter, and protect a dazzling array of creatures. Tiny algae within their tissues provide energy through photosynthesis, while fish and invertebrates find refuge among their ridges and crevices. Each coral colony reflects its environment, growing in harmony with light, current, and wave strength. Together, they form the foundation of one of Earth's richest ecosystems. The preservation of coral diversity is therefore not just an aesthetic concern but a global necessity, for these reefs stabilize coastlines, sustain fisheries, and nurture half of all marine life. On land, birds continue the cycle of life by carrying seeds across continents. As they feast on fruit, seeds pass unharmed through their digestive tracts, ready to germinate far from their origins. This airborne dispersal allows plants to colonize distant regions, maintaining genetic diversity and adapting to changing climates. Some seeds rely entirely on birds to complete their life cycles, traveling across oceans in the stomachs of migratory flocks. When birds release them, they often deposit them with natural fertilizer, increasing their chance of survival. Forests often regrow along the paths of bird migration, a testament to how winged travelers shape the Earth's vegetation. A single bird's flight can determine the birth of a forest centuries later. In the watery arteries of the planet, another migration weaves marine and terrestrial worlds together. Salmon and other fish journey from the ocean to mountain rivers to spawn, carrying with them the nutrients of the sea. When they die, their bodies release nitrogen and phosphorus into freshwater ecosystems, nourishing everything from algae to trees. Bears, eagles, and other predators spread this marine bounty deep into forests, leaving behind carcasses and fragments that feed soil microbes and plants. Scientists have traced ocean-derived nutrients in tree rings, proving that the sea itself contributes to the growth of inland forests. This astonishing exchange unites mountain and ocean in one continuous nutrient cycle. The migration of fish, therefore, is not just a survival strategy, it is an ancient delivery system, redistributing the ocean's wealth across continents. Long before forests and rivers were teeming with complex life, simpler partnerships were already rewriting the planet. Lichens, a union of fungi and algae or cyanobacteria, represent one of the earliest and most successful collaborations in evolution. The fungus provides shelter and structure. The alga captures sunlight to produce food. Together, they can survive where few others can, on bare rock, tree bark, Arctic tundra, or desert stone. Over millennia, lichens secrete mild acids that slowly dissolve rock, releasing minerals and forming the planet's first soils. These thin layers became the cradle for plants, paving the way for complex ecosystems. Lichens endure extremes of heat, cold, and radiation that would destroy most life. In experiments, they have even survived exposure to outer space and revived afterward. Their quiet resilience tells a profound truth: cooperation, not conflict, was the force that unlocked the land for life to flourish. In the driest deserts, another form of ingenuity keeps existence alive. Some plants harvest water directly from the air, capturing moisture from morning fog or dew when rain may not fall for years. Their leaves and spines are covered in tiny hairs that condense droplets, which then roll down into the soil at the plant's base before the sun evaporates them. The Namib desert beetle uses a similar trick. Its shell collects moisture from fog and channels it toward its mouth. These biological marvels have inspired human innovation, leading to the creation of fog nets and self-watering greenhouses that draw drinkable water from thin air. Such adaptations prove that even in the harshest places, life finds a rhythm, a delicate balance between scarcity and survival. Every ecosystem, from the peatlands to the coral reef, from the desert to the canopy, functions through unseen exchanges of matter, energy, and cooperation. Together they form Earth's grand recycling system, where death becomes life, air becomes water, and time itself is stored in the layers of soil and stone. The same cycles that shaped the planet's past continue to sustain its present, reminding us that every breath we take, every drop of rain, and every glimmer of light is part of one unbroken story of renewal. Each dawn in the desert offers a brief miracle, as plants and animals sip moisture from the air itself, drawing sustenance from the faint breath of dew before the rising sun claims it. Across the world, every ecosystem has its rhythm of renewal and destruction, none more dramatic than the fire-driven balance of the savanna. These landscapes, stretching across continents, rely on periodic burns to remain alive. What appears at first glance as devastation, flames devouring dry grass and brush, is in truth an ancient cycle of regeneration. The heat from these fires releases nutrients locked in dead vegetation, feeding the soil for a new surge of growth. Deep-rooted grasses, protected beneath the surface, spring back in days, while the flames prevent tree seedlings from overtaking the open plains. Without this fiery cleansing, forests would creep outward, smothering the grasslands and collapsing the delicate equilibrium between tree and grass, predator and prey. Fire is both destroyer and midwife, clearing the way for grazers who follow the scent of fresh shoots. Lightning often ignites these blazes, but for millennia, human communities have practiced controlled burns, understanding intuitively that renewal depends on release. The savanna's endurance is written in fire, a pulse that has sustained life for millions of years. Far from these burning plains, in the frozen reaches of Antarctica, a different kind of cycle connects sea and land. Penguin colonies, clustered along icy shores, may seem isolated, but they are among the most important nutrient recyclers on the planet. Feeding on fish and krill, penguins gather nitrogen and phosphorus from the ocean and deposit them on land through their guano. This rich fertilizer transforms barren rock into patches of green, nurturing mosses, lichens, and microbial mats. The soil near penguin colonies can contain 10 times more nutrients than surrounding tundra, and even the sharp scent of guano acts as a signal to scavengers and insects, weaving a food web from the cold. As sea ice changes with the climate, penguin migrations shift, redistributing this marine wealth across the continent. Thus, through their movements and droppings, these seabirds maintain a subtle but essential bridge between the ocean's depths and the land's fragile ecosystems, sustaining life in one of the harshest places on Earth. Deep within the rainforests, another kind of communication hums through the air, not of scent or light, but of sound. Every forest has its own voice, a continuous chorus of insects, frogs, birds, and mammals, blending into a soundscape as intricate as the forest's canopy itself. Scientists have begun using acoustic sensors to measure biodiversity by listening rather than observing. A healthy forest sings across many frequencies, its spectrum filled with life, while a damaged or fragmented one falls eerily silent in certain bands, where species have vanished. Dawn brings territorial songs of birds, dusk rises with amphibian calls. Even the whisper of rain or wind leaves traces in this symphony, shaping how animals time their communication. Through sound, researchers can detect changes invisible to the eye, shifts in balance, declines in species, and recoveries after disturbance. The forest sound is its heartbeat, and to listen is to understand its health. Meanwhile, communication thrives in subtler, quieter forms across the plant kingdom. When a caterpillar bites into a leaf, the plant does not merely endure, it responds. Chemicals surge through its tissues and drift into the air, carrying alarm signals that attract predatory wasps to attack the intruder. Neighboring plants, sensing these airborne warnings, begin producing their own defensive compounds before they are even touched. This chemical language, transmitted invisibly on the wind, forms an ecological network of cooperation and defense. Crops have even been bred to enhance these natural alarm systems, reducing the need for artificial pesticides. Every molecule released tells a story, identifying the attacker, the level of stress, and the urgency of defense. Scientists are still decoding this hidden language of plants, revealing a world where leaves whisper across fields, and insects answer their calls, transforming survival into conversation. Beneath all this, unseen but omnipresent, lies the soil, an ancient archive of life's continuity. The microbes dwelling there are not only the recyclers of matter but also the ancestors of the bacteria within our own bodies. Long before animals evolved, soil microorganisms learned to digest complex organic molecules, break down waste, and communicate chemically. As primitive animals fed on decaying matter, they absorbed these microbes into their systems. Over time, this temporary alliance became permanent, giving rise to the gut bacteria that now live symbiotically within every creature. Genetic studies reveal that many modern gut microbes still share traits with their soil-dwelling cousins, a reminder of our shared microbial ancestry. Even today, contact with healthy soil can strengthen immune systems and regulate digestion. Each handful of earth contains echoes of the biological pact that shaped all animal life, a quiet partnership between the ground beneath us and the cells within us. From the solid land to the restless sea, color itself becomes a language of balance. Seen from satellites, the ocean's hues reveal the state of its health. Where phytoplankton bloom, the water turns green, teeming with microscopic life that feeds everything from krill to whales. Where nutrients are scarce, the sea deepens to a dark, barren blue. Shifts in these colors record the planet's pulse: warming currents, acidification, and declining productivity. In recent decades, subtle alterations in ocean color have warned scientists of profound ecological changes invisible to the naked eye. Each tint and shimmer tells a story of chemistry and biology intertwined, a living canvas that maps the heartbeat of the earth. Just as tree rings preserve the memory of seasons, the ocean's palette holds a chronicle of life, its pigments writing the diary of an evolving world. Deep beneath volcanic mountains, another kind of transformation unfolds, one born from fire and ash. When volcanoes erupt, they seem to unleash pure destruction, yet their clouds of dust are rich in the very minerals life needs to begin again. Ash and rock fragments scatter across land and sea, carrying iron, magnesium, and phosphorus that fertilize ecosystems on a global scale. In oceans starved of iron, a thin layer of volcanic dust can ignite massive phytoplankton blooms, feeding marine creatures and drawing carbon from the atmosphere. On land, the same ash settles into soils, restoring fertility and accelerating the return of forests. Even centuries after an eruption, scientists can trace bursts of productivity to the minerals scattered by these fiery events. In this way, Earth's geological and biological systems remain inseparably linked, fire leading to renewal, destruction to growth. The ashes of one catastrophe become the foundation for future abundance, illustrating nature's endless capacity to rebuild itself. Along the winding paths of rivers and deltas, wetlands perform another kind of magic: purification. Acting as the planet's kidneys, wetlands filter water through layers of reeds, soil, and sediment, trapping particles and absorbing excess nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. Within their waterlogged soils, microbes break down organic pollutants and capture heavy metals, leaving cleaner water to flow downstream. Each moment of the natural world reveals a complex rhythm of renewal and resilience that connects every living thing through light, motion, and time. Deep beneath the ocean's surface, coral reefs shimmer with bioluminescent pigments when stressed, a final act of defiance against rising heat. Their fluorescence shields delicate algae from harsh sunlight, reflecting the coral's last attempt to preserve the ancient partnership that sustains its life. These glowing pigments not only protect but may also summon helpful microbes that assist in recovery, turning the reef into a living alarm system that warns of environmental distress long before bleaching begins. Even as the light fades, it does so with beauty, showing the persistence of life in the face of fragility. On land, rain awakens a different form of vitality. The scent we associate with rainfall, petrichor, arises from soil bacteria stirred to life. As droplets strike the dry earth, they release geosmin, a compound so potent that humans can detect it in minute concentrations. This earthly fragrance connects us to microbial worlds that predate humanity, signaling the revival of life after dryness and heat. It's nature's way of reminding every creature that renewal follows every drought. The rhythm continues with the ocean tides, which pulse like the planet's heartbeat, drawing water, nutrients, and oxygen through mangroves, marshes, and estuaries twice each day. This constant exchange sustains life, replenishing plankton, crustaceans, and fish, while preventing stagnation along coastlines. As the tides move, they also sculpt landscapes, regulating salinity, nourishing ecosystems, and shaping the delicate boundary between land and sea. Without this lunar-driven motion, countless species that depend on tidal flows would vanish, leaving behind silence where life once thrived. Within the stillness of forests, change happens through light. When an old tree falls, sunlight floods through the canopy, igniting seeds that have lain dormant for years. This process, ecological succession, creates bursts of biodiversity as plants, insects, and animals race to occupy the new clearing. Each fallen tree becomes a small rebirth, preventing dominance by any single species and ensuring that the forest remains dynamic and diverse. In this way, even loss becomes opportunity, and death feeds life in an endless cycle. The forest also remembers its past. Fires, floods, and storms leave invisible imprints on ecosystems that persist for generations. Thick bark on fire-prone trees, drought-resistant roots in grasslands, and heat-activated seeds are all signs of this ecological memory. These inherited adaptations represent nature's wisdom, an unspoken knowledge that allows life to endure and evolve. In every branch, root, and grain of soil, there are records of past struggles written in the code of survival. Some birds, like weavers and finches, mirror this ingenuity in their nests, braiding living branches into structures that grow stronger with time. These nests, alive and expanding with the trees that host them, symbolize an extraordinary integration of architecture and biology. They not only protect eggs and chicks but become microhabitats for insects and small plants, showing how creation in nature often serves many lives at once. Even in the harshest deserts, life finds a way to weave stability from chaos. Beneath rolling dunes, microbial mats of cyanobacteria, fungi, and algae bind sand grains together, anchoring the shifting terrain and trapping vital moisture. These fragile crusts transform barren landscapes into living systems, enabling seeds to sprout and life to persist where conditions seem impossible. Yet when trampled or eroded, they take decades to recover, demonstrating the delicate balance that sustains desert ecosystems. Along coastlines, mangroves perform a similarly crucial role. Their tangled roots cradle young fish in protected lagoons, filtering water and slowing currents so that organic matter can settle and feed a wealth of creatures. As juvenile fish mature, they venture outward, carrying the energy of the mangrove into coral reefs and open seas, linking forest to ocean in one seamless flow of life. When mangroves disappear, entire fisheries collapse, proving how deeply oceanic survival is rooted in these quiet coastal forests. Even a violent force like lightning participates in creation. When it strikes a tree, splitting bark and hollowing trunks, it creates new habitats for bats, birds, and insects. Rainwater pools in the scars, fungi colonize the wounded wood, and the damaged tree becomes a vertical ecosystem, proof that destruction and rebirth are often the same act written in different moments of time. As the tree decays, it enriches the soil, ensuring that new life rises from its remains. At the top of the world, polar bears depend on another unseen foundation, sea ice algae. Growing beneath the frozen surface, these microscopic organisms begin the entire Arctic food chain, nourishing plankton, fish, seals, and ultimately the bears themselves. As warming shortens the ice season, this delicate timing unravels, weakening the web of life from its base upward. Every hunt, every breath, every cub depends on that invisible green film clinging to the underside of melting ice. Far below the Arctic light, in the ocean's twilight zone between 200 and 1,000 meters deep, life exists in abundance, illuminated only by the faintest traces of blue. Billions of small creatures rise and fall daily through the darkness, forming one of Earth's largest migrations, a silent pulse of biomass that sustains the ocean. These mysterious depths, where sunlight barely reaches, hold more animal life than all the visible world above, reminding us that most of Earth's vitality is hidden beneath a veil of shadow. From glowing coral reefs to rain-soaked soil, from forest gaps to the pulse of tides, every system on Earth participates in a grand conversation between light and life. Fire turns destruction into renewal. Microbes anchor deserts. Rain carries the scent of rebirth. And algae feed the giants of the ice. The planet's story is not one of endless struggle, but of intricate balance, a choreography of elements that ensures survival through transformation. Life endures not by resisting change, but by folding it into its design. Every breeze, every spark, every ripple of tide is part of this vast resilience, a reminder that the Earth is alive in ways both seen and unseen, breathing, remembering, and renewing itself through the quiet, persistent light that binds it all together. Beneath the ocean's glittering surface lies a dim expanse known as the Twilight Zone, a shadowed realm that teems with life despite its near darkness. Here, countless jellyfish, squid, crustaceans, and bioluminescent fish drift in shimmering layers that rise and fall with the rhythm of day and night, performing the planet's most massive daily migration. Scientists believe the total biomass of this mysterious zone may exceed that of all surface fish combined. As these creatures feed near the surface under the cover of darkness and descend into the depths by daylight, they carry carbon downward, helping to regulate the planet's climate through a process known as the biological carbon pump. Many species remain undiscovered, their tiny lights flickering like stars in a submerged sky, each glow a message from a world still largely unexplored. The Twilight Zone acts as an invisible engine of balance, linking the sunlit shallows to the abyss below, and sustaining the flow of energy and matter that keeps the ocean alive. Yet this hidden realm is only one strand in the great web that unites the Earth. Even the air itself is alive. Microbes, bacteria, fungal spores, and microscopic algae ride on currents of dust, sea spray, and vapor, traveling from continent to continent in a matter of days. These airborne travelers help shape clouds and rain by providing surfaces on which water vapor condenses. Some survive their journey through the atmosphere, settling back to Earth to colonize new habitats, extending the reach of life to the edges of the stratosphere. Every gust of wind carries fragments of distant ecosystems, desert dust full of bacteria, ocean mist dense with plankton, pollen from forests thousands of miles away. The sky becomes a living web, an invisible highway through which the smallest organisms knit together every habitat on the planet. Even the breath we take carries traces of this invisible migration, connecting us to the unseen travelers that drift endlessly above. On the ground, amphibians serve as living alarms for environmental imbalance. Frogs, salamanders, and newts are among the most sensitive creatures on Earth, their porous skin absorbing water, oxygen, and pollutants directly from their surroundings. When their populations decline, it often signals deeper trouble, pollution, climate disruption, or disease spreading through the ecosystem. The deadly chytrid fungus has swept across continents, decimating amphibian species and signaling shifts in humidity and temperature linked to global change. Scientists listen to the chorus of frogs as they would to a heartbeat. When it falls silent, entire ecosystems tremble. Each croak at night is both a call for a mate and a sign that the balance of water, soil, and air still holds. In the tropics, bright parrotfish maintain coral health by grazing on algae that would otherwise smother the reefs. With beak-like jaws, they scrape coral surfaces clean, allowing young polyps to thrive. As they feed, they grind bits of limestone that pass through their bodies and emerge as fine sand, each fish producing hundreds of kilograms every year, forming the beaches that fringe tropical islands. These colorful grazers keep reefs alive. When they are overfished, algae quickly overwhelm the coral, transforming vibrant underwater cities into lifeless stone. Every handful of white sand underfoot carries the mark of their unseen labor, a reminder of how balance depends on the quiet persistence of small, bright lives. Deep beneath rainforests, leafcutter ants cultivate fungus farms, one of the oldest forms of agriculture on Earth. Millions of workers cut and carry fragments of leaves back to their underground chambers, not to eat directly but to feed a symbiotic fungus that in turn nourishes the colony. The ants meticulously control temperature and humidity, remove pests, and maintain this living crop, while the fungus breaks down plant matter into digestible nutrients. Neither species can survive without the other. Their relationship, millions of years older than human farming, shows that cooperation, not competition, lies at the heart of nature's genius. These subterranean gardens enrich the soil and influence plant growth above, making the ants not just farmers but architects of the forest's fertility. In cooler climates, lakes perform a different kind of transformation each year. As seasons shift, warm and cold waters trade places in a process called turnover. In summer, warmth keeps lighter water at the surface and heavier, colder water below. When autumn arrives and surface waters cool, the layers mix, distributing oxygen downward and bringing nutrient-rich waters to the surface. Life in the lake depends on this inversion. Without it, the deep water would stagnate, suffocating everything below. This natural rhythm mirrors breathing, a lake's way of inhaling and exhaling life through the cycle of seasons. Climate change, however, is altering this timing, disrupting an ancient balance that aquatic species have relied on for millennia. Diversity is nature's insurance policy, the foundation of resilience that allows life to endure change. Ecosystems with many species can absorb shocks, drought, fire, or disease, because each role is shared among multiple players. If one species fails, others can step in. Monocultures, by contrast, are brittle. When one thread breaks, the whole system unravels. Diversity strengthens forests, reefs, and grasslands, ensuring productivity and stability over time. In variation lies balance, in complexity, endurance. The more intricate the web of life, the stronger its ability to survive. Mosses, humble yet powerful, hold mountains in place. Their spongy mats trap water, stabilize soil, and slow the flow of rain across slopes. Acting as pioneers, mosses colonize bare rock, capturing dust and organic matter to create the first thin layers of soil. In high-altitude regions, they shelter insects and amphibians, keeping the ground moist and cool. Their resilience is extraordinary. They can dry to a crisp and revive at the first hint of humidity. When stripped away, erosion accelerates, and the land weakens. Mosses are the green architects of endurance, quietly securing the edges of mountains and forests for centuries. Glaciers, too, shape the rhythm of life long after they retreat. As they melt, their water feeds rivers and wetlands, sustaining ecosystems and human communities far below. This mineral-rich meltwater fertilizes valleys and floodplains, carrying the memory of ancient snowfalls and frozen centuries. Scientists call this lingering influence the glacial pulse, a reminder that even in melting, ice gives life. Yet as the planet warms, these reservoirs vanish, and with them go the rivers and fertile plains that depend on their steady flow. Many tropical rainforests grow upon ancient ocean floors, where limestone bedrock, formed from coral and marine shells millions of years ago, now supports lush jungles. As tectonic forces lifted these seabeds into mountains, life adapted to the new terrain, turning the remains of marine worlds into vibrant forests. The calcium-rich rocks beneath influence soil chemistry and rainwater, shaping the diversity of plants that thrive above. In hidden caves below these forests, fossilized coral still clings to the stone, perfectly preserved, a geological memory of a time when the forest was a sea. The living world, from moss to fish to mountain, is a single network of transformation. Light becomes life, life becomes soil, soil becomes forest, and the forest breathes light again. The twilight zone's glowing creatures, the airborne microbes drifting across the sky, the frogs that sing the health of their rivers, the ants tending their fungal gardens, the parrotfish grinding coral into beaches, the moss anchoring cliffs, and the glaciers bleeding into rivers, all are parts of one vast cycle of renewal. Nature's design is not static but endlessly shifting, weaving loss into creation and decay into growth. Every element, visible or hidden, participates in this eternal conversation of exchange. The planet breathes through tides and forests, glows through coral and ice, and remembers itself in stone and song. In every flicker of bioluminescent light, every drop of glacial melt, every whisper of wind carrying unseen life, the earth reveals the same truth. Resilience is written into its very fabric, and every act of change is also an act of creation. life on Earth has grown upon its own ruins, turning ancient seabeds into the greenest landscapes on the planet, where every drop of rain that seeps into the soil carries whispers of the oceans that once covered them. Beneath this surface of renewal, migrating animals navigate using the Earth's magnetic field, an invisible force that has guided life across continents and oceans for millions of years. Sea turtles, birds, and salmon all possess an internal compass that allows them to travel thousands of kilometers with unerring precision. Even newborn creatures with no experience can orient themselves magnetically, suggesting that this sense is hardwired into their biology. Some species have tiny crystals of magnetite embedded within specialized cells, while others detect faint magnetic shifts through their eyes, linking their movements to the subtle heartbeat of the planet itself. Though much remains a mystery, this magnetic dialogue shows that migration is not random wandering, but a living connection between life and the shifting forces of Earth. Insects, too, play their part in maintaining the pulse of life, pollinating nearly every flowering plant that decorates the planet's surface. Bees, butterflies, beetles, flies, and countless others act as the delicate couriers of reproduction, ensuring that over 80% of all flowering species continue their cycles. Without their visits, the world would lose both its color and much of its food. Pollination drives evolution, inspiring plants to evolve elaborate shapes, colors, and scents in a centuries-long conversation with their pollinators. Yet habitat loss, pesticide use, and climate change are silencing these partners in nature's symphony. Protecting them safeguards not just crops, but the entire foundation of terrestrial biodiversity. Every time a bee lands on a blossom, it continues a relationship that has shaped Earth's story for over 100 million years. Even forests breathe life into the sky, their pine-scented air forming clouds that cool the planet. Pine trees release aromatic compounds called terpenes, responsible for the clean, resinous scent that defines forest air. Rising upward, these molecules react with sunlight to form aerosols, tiny seeds around which water droplets gather to become clouds. The result is a self-cooling feedback loop that helps moderate regional temperatures and encourage rainfall. The fragrance of pine forests, then, is not merely pleasant but functional, part of an atmospheric cycle that sustains life itself. Each breath of forest air carries molecules that weave clouds and rain, linking the earth below to the heavens above. In the oceans, coral reefs perform a similar miracle, acting as living seawalls that protect coastlines from the fury of waves. Their intricate limestone structures absorb up to 97% of wave energy, preventing erosion, flooding, and storm damage. Where reefs remain healthy, coastlines stay intact. Where they die, beaches vanish and storms grow more destructive. These natural barriers, built slowly over millennia, provide a service worth billions in disaster prevention. Coral restoration projects now replant broken fragments and nurture regrowth, helping rebuild the sea's armor and preserve one of Earth's most vibrant ecosystems. Coral reefs are not only cradles of biodiversity, but also the living shield between land and water, absorbing force and giving back protection in return. Deep within forests, life continues in quieter cycles. When a tree falls, it begins a slow transformation rather than an end. Fungi, insects, and bacteria move in to decompose its wood, releasing nutrients that feed the soil and sustain new life. Mosses and seedlings sprout in the decaying trunk, using it as a moist, nutrient-rich nursery. In many ecosystems, fallen trees host more life and death than they did in life, providing shelter, moisture, and food to countless species. Over time, they dissolve into rich humus that fertilizes the next generation. Through this process, the forest feeds itself in a continuous act of renewal, returning strength to the ground from which it once rose. Beyond the forest floor, nutrient cycles link mountain peaks to ocean depths in a vast exchange that never stops. Rain dissolves minerals from rock, carrying them down rivers to the sea. Along the way, these nutrients nourish forests, wetlands, and plains. Once they reach the ocean, they feed plankton, which absorb carbon and eventually sink to the seafloor, creating new sediments. Over millions of years, tectonic uplift raises those sediments back into mountains, completing the cycle. The calcium in a seashell today may one day be part of a mountain ridge. The dust of that mountain may later fertilize a distant rainforest. Every grain of soil and drop of water participates in this eternal dance of erosion and renewal, linking the highest peaks to the deepest trenches in a slow, planetary rhythm. Beneath the ocean's surface, communication unfolds through sound rather than light. Whales sing across vast distances, their low-frequency calls traveling for hundreds of kilometers. These songs coordinate migration, feeding, and even social behavior, shaping the very structure of oceanic life. Scientists now suspect that whale vocalizations help synchronize the movements of other species, influencing fish schools and predator-prey dynamics. The ocean's soundscape acts as an invisible network of connection, carrying information through water denser and more continuous than air. Yet human noise, ships, sonar, drilling, has disrupted this ancient language, causing confusion and stress among marine creatures. During the global lockdowns, when oceans fell quiet, whales began to sing longer, clearer songs, revealing how much communication had been masked by human activity. Their voices are not merely sounds but living threads of connection that hold the marine world together. On the microscopic level, life thrives in abundance. A single drop of seawater can contain millions of microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and algae, interacting in constant exchange. Some produce oxygen, others recycle waste, and many form the base of marine food chains that sustain everything from plankton to whales. These invisible communities regulate carbon, nitrogen, and energy cycles on a global scale. Scientists continue to discover new species within them, some capable of digesting plastics or fixing nitrogen in unique ways, holding potential solutions to major environmental challenges. Within a single shimmering drop lies an entire universe of cooperation and competition, tiny, unseen architects of the planet's balance. Across every ecosystem, from deserts to rainforests, energy flows in measurable rhythms of production and decay. Sunlight fuels growth, herbivores consume plants, predators regulate populations, and decomposers return nutrients to the soil. This flow of energy maintains equilibrium, ensuring that life renews itself in endless cycles. The interconnectedness of all species, from microbes to mammals, defines the resilience of the biosphere. When diversity thrives, ecosystems can absorb shocks, fires, floods, droughts, and recover. Energy flows endlessly through the living systems of Earth, weaving an invisible thread that links the smallest organism to the largest ecosystem in a constant rhythm of transformation. Sunlight begins this cycle, streaming across space to awaken the green machinery of plants, whose chlorophyll captures photons and turns them into sugar, the base currency of life. From this foundation, energy passes from plant to herbivore, from prey to predator, and finally to the decomposers that return it to the soil, completing an eternal circuit. This movement follows the cycles of seasons, tides, and light, creating the pulse that drives the planet's living systems. Even the most chaotic ecosystems, dense jungles, coral reefs, arid deserts, follow this invisible order. When scientists measure the balance through carbon exchange, oxygen production, or nutrient flow, they find not randomness, but rhythm, patterns that echo the stability of life itself. Yet, when these cycles are interrupted by human activity or climate change, equilibrium falters, and collapse begins. Still, as long as energy continues to move and transform, life adapts, reorganizing itself into new forms and new harmonies. Beneath the surface, fungi weave silent partnerships with trees, extending their roots through microscopic filaments that trade minerals for sugars, building resilience in the face of rising heat and drought. These fungal allies alter the chemistry of the soil, allowing trees to survive where the heat might otherwise kill. Forests rich in fungal diversity recover faster after storms or droughts, their underground networks acting as lifelines of adaptation. As temperatures climb, these fungi migrate with their host trees, evolving side by side, nature's quiet collaboration under stress. While roots and fungi sustain life underground, the sky carries its own exchanges. Dust from the Sahara Desert, lifted by trade winds, crosses the Atlantic and rains down upon the Amazon rainforest, feeding it with ancient minerals from long-vanished lakes. This dust, containing phosphorus and other vital nutrients, replenishes the rainforest's thin soils, compensating for what is lost through constant rain and decay. Satellites have traced this massive journey, revealing that up to 27 million tons of dust make the trip each year, a bridge between two continents. The barren desert thus sustains one of the planet's richest ecosystems, a poetic exchange where the dry heart of Africa feeds the green lungs of South America with its own ancient remnants. Within the jungle canopy, life scales down into miniature worlds. Rainwater pools inside the leaves of pitcher plants and bromeliads, forming tiny aquatic ecosystems called phytotelmata. Within these small chambers, mosquito larvae, algae, and even miniature frogs coexist, recycling nutrients in a self-contained loop. Some pitcher plants host species found nowhere else on Earth, including bacteria that dissolve trapped insects into nourishment. These microcosms mirror entire ecosystems in miniature, with producers, consumers, and decomposers all present in delicate balance. Scientists study them to understand how complex systems sustain themselves in confined spaces, each droplet of water a living universe. Below the forest floor, and deep beneath the sea, similar stories unfold. In the cold coastal waters of the Pacific, sea otters perform a role vital to the planet's ecological balance. By preying on sea urchins that graze on kelp, otters maintain underwater forests that absorb immense amounts of carbon dioxide and shelter countless species. When otters were hunted nearly to extinction, urchins multiplied unchecked, devouring kelp until only barren seabeds remained. The return of the otter brought the forests back, transforming desolation into abundance once again. Each playful otter floating on its back is a keystone of restoration, a small guardian of the planet's carbon balance. At the surface of the ocean lies an invisible membrane known as the sea's surface microlayer, only millimeters thick, yet crucial to the planet's chemistry. This delicate film, rich in organic matter and microscopic life, governs the exchange of gases between sea and air. It absorbs sunlight, traps pollutants, and even influences cloud formation. The microbes and plankton that inhabit it release gases that shape weather patterns. Disturbances to this fragile skin, through pollution or warming, can alter the carbon and oxygen balance of the planet, proving that the health of the world rests upon the tiniest layers. The ocean's living skin binds atmosphere and sea into one continuous system, a silent connector between breath and wave. In the grand design of life, repetition and reflection abound. The structure of a rainforest mirrors that of a coral reef. Both teem with life, both rely on recycling nutrients, and both are held together by intricate symbioses. The canopy of trees stretching toward the sun and the coral's branches reaching for light beneath the sea are parallel expressions of life's creativity. Each supports innumerable species, each recycles its own waste into nourishment, and each acts as a cradle of biodiversity. Yet both are vulnerable. Bleached reefs and burning forests bear witness to the same pressures. Despite their distance, they are siblings in form and function, testaments to how evolution reuses its best ideas across the planet's diverse realms. At the microscopic level, the guardians of carbon balance are not the trees or whales that capture the imagination, but the invisible billions of bacteria, plankton, and fungi that regulate the flow of elements. These organisms constantly absorb and release carbon through respiration, decomposition, and growth. In thriving ecosystems, they lock vast quantities of carbon into soil and sediment, maintaining stability. When disrupted, by warming, pollution, or deforestation, they release that stored carbon, turning balance into feedback loops of instability. Scientists now recognize that these unseen microbes are the gatekeepers of climate regulation, the invisible stewards of Earth's breath. Within forests, the passage of time is written in rings. Each year, trees record their growth in concentric circles that reflect the conditions of their environment. Wide rings for abundance, narrow ones for hardship. These patterns, studied through dendrochronology, allow scientists to reconstruct histories of droughts, volcanic eruptions, and solar cycles stretching back thousands of years. Ancient bristlecone pines in North America have lived for nearly 5 millennia, their trunks preserving records older than civilization itself. Each ring is a page in the planet's diary, chronicling how life endures, adapts, and remembers. In the rainforest, the same story unfolds in living form. Trees inhale the carbon of the atmosphere and exhale oxygen, stabilizing the climate. Though they cover only a fraction of the Earth's surface, tropical rainforests absorb immense amounts of carbon dioxide every year. The Amazon alone stores tens of billions of tons of carbon, but deforestation and fire weaken this capacity, threatening to shift the forest from a carbon sink to a carbon source. Yet, even as pressures mount, life seeks equilibrium. Fungi beneath the soil, microbes in the air, and countless interconnected species in forest and ocean together compose the grand symphony of exchange that sustains the planet. From the deserts that feed rainforests to the microbes that balance the air, every process connects to another in a seamless web of giving and receiving. Energy. As trees fall and decay, the carbon they have stored for centuries is slowly released back into the atmosphere, amplifying global warming and disrupting the delicate equilibrium of Earth's carbon cycle. Protecting rainforests, therefore, preserves not only wildlife but the very breath of the planet, for each towering tree functions as part of a vast biological lung, drawing in carbon dioxide, exhaling oxygen, and maintaining the invisible balance that sustains all complex life. Under the eternal light of the Arctic summer, when the sun circles the horizon without ever setting, the frozen seas awaken in a brief yet spectacular burst of productivity. Ice melts into nutrient-rich waters, and the endless daylight ignites explosive blooms of phytoplankton, tiny, photosynthetic organisms that become the foundation of entire food webs. Zooplankton, fish, seabirds, and whales gather to feast on this ephemeral banquet, compressing a year's worth of life into a few brilliant weeks. As the sun finally dips below the horizon and winter's darkness returns, the ocean falls silent once more, entering a long slumber until the next cycle begins. Scientists hurry to study these fragile systems before the rapid warming of the Arctic forever alters their seasonal rhythm. In contrast to the icy vastness of the poles, the soft glow of fireflies illuminates warm summer nights across forests and meadows, turning darkness into living light. Their rhythmic flashes are more than enchanting. They form a language of communication, a biological orchestra of signals for mating, territory, and warning. In some regions, thousands of fireflies synchronize their pulses into mesmerizing waves of luminescence, transforming entire landscapes into breathing constellations. This glow affects far more than the insects themselves. Nocturnal birds, plants, and even predators adjust their behaviors to these tiny beacons. The larvae, hidden beneath bark or within soil, prey upon snails and slugs, helping regulate ecosystems from below. The chemistry behind their glow, powered by luciferin and oxygen, creates light with near-perfect efficiency, producing virtually no heat. Scientists study this natural bioluminescence to inspire innovations in bioengineering, medicine, and low-energy lighting. Thus, the humble firefly becomes both artist and engineer of the night, embodying nature's genius for beauty and function. Beneath the forest floor, another silent collaboration unfolds in the form of fungal networks that link trees together into a single, cooperative organism. These mycorrhizal webs transfer not just water and minerals, but also carbon compounds, nutrients, and even warning signals. When one tree captures excess sunlight, it shares some of its bounty through fungal threads with shaded neighbors. This redistribution ensures that forests grow in harmony, with strong trees sustaining weaker ones, and the entire community thriving together. Seedlings often owe their survival to mature trees that send them sustenance underground. In this way, the forest acts as a living, breathing network of shared chemistry and consciousness, a vast collective metabolism that turns soil into the bloodstream of life. Across open landscapes, grazing animals like bison, zebras, and wildebeests play an equally crucial role in maintaining balance. Their constant movement and feeding patterns prevent grasslands from becoming choked with shrubs or transformed into deserts. Their hooves break the soil's crust, allowing rain and seeds to penetrate, while their dung fertilizes the ground, returning nutrients to the cycle. Without these great herds, grasslands stagnate, biodiversity declines, and erosion increases. Restoring natural grazing patterns, mimicking the rhythm of wild migrations, has been shown to revive depleted lands, enrich soil carbon, and stabilize climate. Every thunder of hooves becomes an act of renewal, a heartbeat of the plains that echoes through ecological time. Far above, in the thin reaches of the atmosphere, the ozone layer shields life from harmful ultraviolet radiation, filtering sunlight in ways that shape entire ecosystems below. Plankton near the ocean's surface are particularly sensitive to UV light. When ozone thins, excess radiation disrupts their DNA and photosynthesis, suppressing growth and disturbing the food webs that depend on them. Conversely, as the ozone heals, plankton blooms return stronger, absorbing carbon dioxide and producing oxygen essential for marine and atmospheric balance. This invisible connection between the stratosphere and the sea reveals how profoundly intertwined Earth's systems are. What happens high above the clouds ripples all the way to the depths of the ocean. The planet's great ocean currents further entwine life by carrying drifting seeds and fruits across entire hemispheres. Coconuts, mangroves, and other coastal plants have evolved buoyant seeds capable of surviving for months at sea, traveling vast distances to colonize new shores. These botanical voyagers are biological messages in bottles, carrying the genetic promise of new life across the water. Some modern coastal forests exist only because their ancestors floated there centuries ago, guided by the rhythm of tides and trade winds. The Gulf Stream, equatorial currents, and other oceanic highways act as dispersal networks for life, binding distant continents into a continuous biological tapestry. Each drifting seed is a capsule of potential, a silent pioneer bringing greenery to unseen lands. Before forests can grow, however, something must prepare the ground, and that role falls to lichens, among Earth's oldest and most resilient organisms. These partnerships between fungi and algae are the first to colonize barren rock, their delicate bodies clinging to stone where nothing else can survive. Through slow, persistent action, they release mild acids that dissolve minerals, combining them with dust and water to form the first thin films of soil. Over centuries, this living veneer deepens enough to support mosses, grasses, and eventually trees. Without lichens, new volcanic islands and glacial landscapes would remain sterile for millennia. Their quiet labor marks the beginning of ecological succession, the patient rebuilding of life from stone to forest. In this way, lichens are the planet's original architects, sculpting fertility from desolation through the silent power of endurance. Across continents, the immense footsteps of elephants shape the earth in their own way. Following ancient migratory routes between watering holes, their massive weight compacts soil, carving shallow depressions that, over centuries, become natural waterways. These trails guide rainfall, forming channels and influencing entire drainage systems. In time, elephant paths evolve into rivers, their movements quite literally rewriting geography. As they travel, elephants also break trees, open clearings, and spread seeds through their dung, each action reshaping the landscape in subtle harmony with life. Satellite imagery has revealed that some African river networks trace directly back to elephant routes that existed long before humans. The very land bears their memory in its contours. Forest elephants, smaller and shyer than their savanna cousins, perform a quieter yet equally vital task. They replant the forests they inhabit. By consuming fruits from hundreds of species and depositing the seeds across vast areas, they sustain genetic diversity and ensure the continued regeneration of tropical ecosystems. As the very structure of the forest remains open, balanced, and vibrant through the endless rhythm of life, every step taken by the creatures that roam it plants the seeds for the next generation of trees. In this vast web of connection, even the migrations of salmon breathe life into the land. Each year, they journey home from the depths of the ocean to the rivers of their birth, carrying with them the ocean's nutrients and memories. When they spawn and die, their bodies become gifts to the land, food for bears, eagles, and countless scavengers. The remains of these salmon are dragged into the forest, where insects, fungi, and microbes decompose them, weaving the elements of the sea into the soil of the land. Nitrogen and phosphorus from their flesh feed the trees along the streams, making them taller, stronger, and richer in life. Scientists can trace the chemical fingerprints of the ocean within the wood of these riverside trees, a quiet proof that the sea climbs into the forest every year through the life and death of salmon. In this way, the boundaries between ocean and land dissolve into a single circle of nourishment. Along the shores, seaweed cast ashore by the waves continues this exchange. As it decays, it releases a rich blend of nitrogen, potassium, and trace minerals that sink into the sand, feeding the coastal plants that stabilize dunes and nourish meadows. For centuries, coastal farmers recognized this natural gift, gathering seaweed to fertilize their crops and sustain their fields. In untouched coastlines, the decaying kelp provides a feast for insects and crustaceans, which in turn feed seabirds, continuing the endless conversation between ocean and shore. Even the scent of rotting seaweed carries the essence of this exchange, a whisper of the ocean's generosity to the land. The earth, in its grand design, never ceases this dialogue. Ecology reveals that every living thing is part of one continuous, unbroken conversation that stretches across continents and centuries. From the smallest microbe hidden beneath a pebble to the tallest redwood piercing the sky, all life on Earth speaks in the language of exchange, of breath, of water, of energy. The air that moves through a forest becomes the air we breathe. The water that courses through rivers becomes the blood within us. Every molecule of carbon, every ray of sunlight, every droplet of rain joins this global conversation that sustains life in its many forms. Nothing on this planet exists alone. Every existence is an echo of something else. The same carbon that leaves a forest leaf will one day drift across the sea and return through a cloud. Every pulse of energy, every flicker of light, every wave of sound is part of a vast and patient rhythm that unites all beings. To understand ecology is to learn to listen, to hear this conversation spoken not in words but in the language of chemistry, pattern, and time. Each forest breathes in response to the sky. Each ocean wave answers the pull of the moon. Every animal, from the silent fox to the distant whale, contributes to the ongoing story of connection. In realizing this, we discover that nature does not act in fragments but in symphonies. And so we arrive at the quiet heart of the story, a reflection on the unity of life that threads through all things. From the whisper of moss on stone to the thunder of herds across plains, everything belongs to the same eternal cycle of giving and receiving. Ecology, then, is not simply the study of nature but of belonging. It teaches that we are not apart from this living world, but intricately woven into it. The air filling our lungs was once part of a forest's breath. The water that flows through our veins fell once as ancient rain. The warmth that comforts our bodies began as sunlight born millions of kilometers away. Every heartbeat is a small echo of the same rhythm that moves through rivers, tides, and roots. Even when the world feels still, life is at work, quietly, tirelessly, beautifully. Beneath the frost, seeds dream of spring. Beneath the soil, roots exchange whispers of nutrients and messages of survival. Beneath the sea, coral polyps build new homes grain by grain. The balance of life never sleeps. It turns endlessly, shaping and reshaping itself with patience beyond comprehension. In decay, new life takes root. In silence, new songs form. The ending of one moment is the birth of another. And perhaps in this eternal renewal, we find peace, a reminder that every loss is also a beginning. The earth itself teaches us how to rest, how to renew, how to let go and begin again. As you breathe now, imagine the forest breathing with you, the slow inhale of leaves, the soft exhale of soil. Picture the waves folding and unfolding on distant shores, carrying the same rhythm that beats quietly within your chest. Above, the night sky stretches vast and timeless, holding everything, the light, the dark, the motion, the stillness, in gentle balance. The stars burn as they have for billions of years, their light crossing space to touch the world in its sleep. Beneath them, the planet moves softly and patiently, continuing its long journey through time, guided by the same rhythm that has shaped it since the beginning. This is the music of life, unbroken and infinite. Every creature, every current, every atom is part of this grand song, echoing endlessly through the universe. And as you drift toward rest, remember, the world continues its quiet work. The forests breathe. The tides flow. The stars burn. The earth dreams. In that endless movement lies a deep serenity, the knowing that all things are connected, that even in change and decay, the world is always beginning again. So close your eyes, breathe with the living planet, and let its gentle rhythm cradle your thoughts. Feel the calm that flows from every leaf, every wave, every breeze. You are part of this great story, woven into its light, its air, its heartbeat. The earth holds you as it holds all life, calm, endless, and kind. Good night.